right, welcome back, Athlete Builder. Next episode, we're real time 2 days after Christmas, but this won't upload for a few weeks. Lucky to have on Matt Nicholson today. And Matt is the strength coach at Illinois State. He has a little bit of history with Lucas, which we'll get into. Just a little background on Matt. We're lucky to have him today because anybody in the strength world working at a high level is it's great for us. It's great for the audience because we can learn a whole bunch of things, have some fun with it. Matt's one of those hardworking guys, and from what I could research and learn about him, has won most everywhere. And he starts off kind of building off his high school career and tenacity, has to walk on at Houston, and then fast forward a couple of years, he's a two-time captain. So that just speaks volume right there to work ethic and character. From there, he goes on, has a number of roles, does the typical progression as a coach or a strength coach would. There's the student assistant, there's a GA program, but along the way, there's a little pit stop where he works with the youth impact program. We'll dive into that. Graduate assistant at Houston, and then heads out west. Pick some great geographical locations, Colorado, School of the Mines, and then also Montana. So if you ever get out that way, just for any reason, just enjoy the time out there. I'm sure he did. And then it looked like two of his boys came over to Illinois State, and they kind of recruited him to be the strength coach as well, from what I could read. So it's been there since 2020. The head coach is Brock Spack, which is was pretty fun for me because being a Purdue guy, I was there and going to all the games when he was there in the Joe Tiller era. So I followed Brock for a number of years. So I'm going to go to Illinois State. I've been to conferences where Brock was speaking. So we'll talk about that as well. But today we have on Matt, and want to just welcome you to the show. You're over in Illinois right now. And the first question was for the audience, how do you and Lucas, how do your paths cross?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's my first podcast. So awesome. Excited to get rolling. But yeah, Lucas came as an intern for us in summer of 21, which is my first summer working here. And so we always need some more hands on deck. Summer's a lot of work. That's really our big money time of the year, but we had a really good group. We had 3 interns with us. Lucas was one of them, as well as a grad assistant I worked with. So we really had a five-person staff, which is the most interns that I've had here at any one time. So it was super helpful. Lucas came in with just a desire to learn and hardworking guy, and so he was a really easy fit for us. I knew I could count on him to do whatever we needed him to do. So I'm always grateful to get good young coaches that understand what it takes to be good in this business and good people on top of that. So I enjoyed our time, and we've kept in touch ever since.
And Luke, you this is your last stop on your college route, working for schools right before your current position, right, at Northside.
Yeah, that was the last stop. I spent some time there and was I was kind of curious about getting in the high school realm. And kind of going that way. And it was just a perfect segue to kind of, because at the time I was also working at Illinois Wesleyan, which is same town as Illinois State, small D3 school. And I was an assistant there, and I was just working and stuff. But I saw a posting open up, and I was like, man, I could do this too and go learn and see what it's about. And it was the best, it was a great wrap up from all my experience before I got my first real job, just because it allowed me the coaches there as well, not just Matt, but everybody else, allowed me to actually coach and be a coach and develop that way. And it wasn't a micromanaged, you do it this way. It was, I could be the coach that I am. And we built and learned off of that. And, I think I've taken so much from Illinois State since I've been there and applied it to my job now that it's just a perfect segue into my career. And so
that's awesome. Matt, tell us about, that time you're coming out of high school and you're looking to play college ball. Were there other preferred walk-on offers or other schools you were looking at? And then how'd you settle on Houston?
I didn't really have a whole lot of I had like one scholarship offer to New Mexico State, but they pulled it before I was supposed to go on a visit. So I didn't have any Division I opportunities. I had a couple Division II, Division III, but I really wanted to go prove that I could go play at that level. I played against a bunch of guys that were going to these big schools. I'm like, I'm doing the same thing they are. I don't really see what the difference is. So there was a coach, a linebackers coach that was at Rice. I couldn't get in there. I wasn't quite sharp enough, but he ended up getting a linebackers job at Houston and gets the job there and asked me if I'd be interested in walking on there. So at least I had somewhat of a foot in the door, at least somebody that knew me there. And when I initially, committed to go there, I was going to be a walk on, come in when school starts and all that. But we got a couple days into training camp. They called me and said, I guess somebody got hurt or didn't show up to camp and they had a spot. So a few days later, they called me and said, can you be here tomorrow? I said, all right. So packed up my parents' car and drove down to Cohen Boulevard, and the rest is history.
Dang. That's so true at all the, at every level. You're at a first year college athlete. And then, I'm from Cleveland, so my team's the Browns. They're on their fourth quarterback.
Oh, me too.
Right.
Me too.
Oh boy,
I'm a huge Browns fan.
Oh
boy.
Man, this is gonna be my favorite episode.
Browns fan.
Here
Huge
we go.
Browns fan.
Oh, no.
Man. So,
man.
they just brought in another kicker because the kicker went down. The whole offensive line's rebuilt.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nick Chubb's down.
Yeah, I don't know if the kicker was hitting his max velocity work. I don't know. Who knows?
So you come on, and if I read correctly, were you a special teams player of the year as a true freshman? Is that right?
I was. So when I got there, I had a chance to play in a couple like preseason scrimmages and made some plays, and they started throwing me on some special teams. I mean, there were two other linebackers that were the same age as me that were getting snaps like ahead of me because of just kind of the, no coach wants to say, oh, I got this walk-on kid who's better than the guys I'm giving money to. So they just put me on special teams. So I just went on Saturdays and covered kicks and kickoff return and everything else in between, and end up, my teammates voted me most valuable player. So that was pretty cool and a good little bargaining chip for them to start paying your boy the next year.
That's right. You can see just from like a political or even a business standpoint, because my whole background is in working in the corporate world and investments. You don't want to be the coach that has to admit failure, right? Hey, this other guy's better, but that ego that gets in the way and it prevents sometimes the better kid playing, which then impacts the overall wins and losses, right? So it's always delicate in any organization dealing with the ego and people. It's not just black and white, is it?
No, it's not. And so much of it is just getting an opportunity and making the most of the opportunity, but you never really, there's so many players that are really good players. Sometimes they just don't maybe get a shot or they don't get the opportunities that other guys get. And so you better make what you can of the opportunity we got there. You better make it count, and you got to make a real clear case that, you're the guy for that position.
Yeah. There's this book, Be So Great They Can't Ignore You. So what I tell kids that are struggling like that, either make it so obvious that people start wanting to fire the coach that they're not playing you. Like all the other staff is going and complaining and stuff, they're not playing you. Or have him, when he does play you, make him coach of the year. So that if it's all out, because you only get a few plays, there's no holding back, there's no hesitation. You've got to go all in just to have a shot. And then there has to be, right or wrong, there's going to be a little bit of luck involved along the way, even whether it's injury or getting an opportunity or whatever. But you don't have to try to get ready if you always stay ready, right?
Yep.
So then you're a linebacker, so you're probably, you're calling all the plays, and then they named you captain 2 years in a row. That's huge. That's huge. That's as huge as anything because you have the respect of the coaches and all your teammates and everybody around you. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that just comes from, the same thing I tell the guys I coach now. It's just you have to just do it every day, and whether you feel like it, whether you don't, and that'll go that's the rest of your life. You're gonna have to get a job one day, and there's gonna be days where you wake up and you don't want to go, or you're tired, you're not feeling well, whatever, and you gotta find a way to come in, deliver the goods, because nobody's gonna be sitting around waiting for you, and you gotta gotta make it count. So that's just a huge part. Just being consistent. Make it undeniable. So many do it right so many times they can't say that you're gonna screw it up.
So not that you must have, I talked to these athletes in college, and there's not much free time. From your schedule, from classes and help sessions, and then film and everything else, sun up to sundown during season for sure. Out of season, not as much. But you decided, hey, if I read this right, you added a son. Is that your senior year?
Yeah, he came like the day before we were playing Tulane at home. So he was born on he came late Thursday night, real late Thursday night, and then had him on Friday, and then was a couple minutes late for my walkthrough the next day, but got there, and yeah, that was just another thing you had to overcome, I suppose.
So you're walking out of the tunnel though for that game, thinking I'm a father now. I have this son I represent. That's got to be, all the mix. I can't imagine all the emotions at that point. I know what I have my own kids, but that was a nice controlled environment where I didn't have to go and perform like a madman the next day. So there's got to be a little sense of pride walking out that first time that there's a person with my last name that's coming after me now that I represent on this field today.
Yeah, it's an ultimate motivator. I mean, at that point, as soon as you become a father, I mean, you're not front and center anymore. It's not about you. You got other people that count on you. So you have to, everything that you do, you have to keep that in the back of your mind, because you're in charge now. You're in charge now. You're the dad. You got to set the example. You got to be make sure your people are taken care of. And so that's a pretty easy thing to add to keep you really motivated.
So I always liken that to what it's like coaching, in that you're not front and center, you're behind the scenes. Other people are on stage, they're performing, and we're just helping them. So you're helping your kid grow, but you're helping this kid perform when he's asked to make plays. We're just there helping and prodding and supporting, and it's the coaching and being a father, a lot of similarities, a lot of parallels. And you taking these young kids and impressionable years in college as one of their coaches, or even a GA like Lucas, and you see ripple effects, you see impact. It's like George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life. You don't realize the impact until the person's gone. So you make an impact on these boys, turning into men like right away, day in and day out. How is that? As you get older and you're younger than I am, each year you're further away from that demographic. Is it still easy to relate?
Yeah, I think there's just commonalities, regardless of maybe our choices on the radio station might differ a little bit, and some, but other than that, I mean, all the principles of it stay the same. It's just it's a matter of just the consistency and just trying to get the best out of guys and meet them where they're at. Everybody you get that comes in your program is going to be different. Everybody's going to come from a different background, so I don't think you can expect that you just get 25 new kids in your program and they're all just going to conform and do exactly what you want to do right off the bat. That's not going to be the case. There's going to be guys that come from programs, so that's been more trained into them, and it's an easier transition. But there'll be other guys that come from programs where there wasn't maybe much accountability, or there wasn't a demand for coming in and training consistently, or all those types of things. And just guys are brought up different. So I think you just have to meet them where they're at, try to find areas where you can relate to guys. But ultimately, I think from my experience in being a former player and being a walk-on and being a captain, and then also being hurt and being out for the year, and all those kind of seats I've sat in between, has given me a really good perspective to be able to really relate to anybody that's going through trying to be their best as a college football player and as a man.
What was the injury that set you back?
I tore my ACL my junior year. I was having a really good season, and then came back the next year, tore my ACL and MCL in the opposite knee, but it was third game, so I got a medical redshirt for that. So I came back for a fifth year, so I played every year there, and then I couldn't hold up. I fell out about the seventh game. We were playing like Central Florida or something. I hobbled off one last time, and just kind of going through that 3 years in a row was was hard. I mean, I was motivated because I wanted to come back. I had dreams of playing pro football, like I think most kids do. But it just wasn't. It wasn't in the cards for me. Like you said, there's a lot of luck that goes into it and staying healthy. And I played hard and I had no regrets about any of that. But it kind of just segued me right into coaching. So once I got done, Coach Sumlin, who was a Purdue grad as well, who was our head coach at the time, he was asked me if I was interested in coaching, and I knew that's what I was going to do. Now, whether I got to go be on a practice squad for a couple of years or cover some kicks in the league, that was probably not going to be in the cards for me. So I got right into coaching and jumped on the staff as a grad assistant.
Awesome. How'd you get out west? Talk about your time at Colorado, Montana. How'd you move your way on out there?
Well, I finished my grad program at Houston, so I stayed there for 2 years as a grad assistant. I worked with defensive coaches, so I wasn't even working in the weight room other than for about 9-10 months before that when I was working with my strength coaches. But so I worked with DBs and D-line and linebackers, and a job open at Colorado School of Mines. One of the guys on staff knew the head coach there, Bob Stitt, and there's a linebackers and strength conditioning job that was open there. So at Division II, a lot of times you got to wear a few more hats.
Yep.
So took that job. I'd never been a head. I mean, I knew how to run workouts. Our strength coach would give me, hey, here's the sheet, go run this group or whatever, and would let me facilitate the sessions. But in terms of like, what are you doing for your warm up or this or that? I mean, I didn't know. I just knew that this was the stuff that I did when I trained, and I liked my coaches and I trained hard for them. So that part, I knew I could run a program, but when you actually start getting into the X's and O's, I realized I don't know shit. So I better start figuring shit out.
Right. So keep adding in the knowledge piece on training kids, and then you also have to, how do you apply what you just learned? So there's a half dozen years formative of drinking through that proverbial fire hose, shoving all that information in your head, trying to still impact kids as you're learning. That's hard. And you have a son too along the way, right? So that's you have a full deck right there.
Yeah, he lives in Houston with his mom. He's come up every summer with me. So whenever we're in summer training, he's been right there. So he's take many naps in my office on some pallets made of jackets, and can sleep through about anything, probably thanks to that. But actually he's to the age, he's in middle school. So this summer he wanted to train and run. So he was out working out with the team and putting in some work with our quarterbacks. And so it's cool to see, because for a while he's just young and didn't want to do any of that stuff. But
sure,
now he's into it. So it's pretty cool. I haven't, he wanted to, not because hey, make it, you got to do this. He wants to do it now. So that's cool to see.
Sure makes it easier whether it's your own kid or the kids in the weight room when they're, driven on their own accord instead of you just lighting a fire under their ass all the time.
It's nice to have a few of those in the room.
It sure helps. But then you met your wife, right? When you were out there too, is that right?
I met her at University of Houston. So
okay.
Well, it kind of ties back into my son, but I'll make a long story short. But we were dating, and then when I took the job at School of Mines, it was kind of just like all right, we weren't really ready for that step. And so I was out there for 2 years, and I was actually coming back. I flew back into Houston to pick up my son to take him up to Montana for the summer, and ended up just kind of by chance running into her again, and that was that. So after that, she moved up to Montana a couple of years later, and it's been with me since. So yeah, kind of funny how it all ties in.
Any fly fishing out there, game hunting, anything fun like that? Yeah,
a lot of mountain biking, did a little bit of fishing. I never could be those guys. I mean, those guys, the fly fishing stuff it's a lot different flies and different this and that. Yeah. Me and my buddy that I worked with, we would just take some spin reels out there, and we still caught fish every time. So we did a little bit of that. But mountain biking, that was probably my favorite thing out there.
That's fun. And then you got 2 daughters, right?
Yeah, I got 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And they're
that's a lot of work.
They're
a
lot of fun. Yeah. So this is it's been a good, it's they're fun. They go, and it's just they're just a lot of fun. I mean, it's never a dull moment. And even when I leave this place and you're drained
Gotcha.
and you're tired, you got to go coach that other group at home too.
That's right. That's right. Got to be able to flip that hat no matter how you're feeling. It's a requirement. So you come into Illinois State. Brock Spack is the coach, and I looked him up as well. Now in that program's history, he's the winningest coach. Been there since 2009. They've had some titles, made it to the playoffs. They've had All-Americans. Legit success. He had success out in Wyoming. He had legit success at Purdue. And it seems like wherever he's been, he's had this teams that are rugged, hard-nosed, great on defense, and he's won all along the way. And so it says a lot that those two coaches that came out west before, he said, hey, we need a strength coach. Let's go get a hold of Matt. Here you are. What's it like working on that team in that culture?
It's been great. I love working for Coach Spack. It's cool. Like when you're in this profession, I mean, a lot of people take jobs and you go into somewhere and maybe you're going into a place pretty blind. You don't really know anybody there. In the situation here, I knew two coaches on the defensive staff, and then the fact that Coach Spack, he was teammates with my head coach in college, Coach Sumlin, who played at Purdue as well, and then the guy who was my linebacker coach when I was at Houston as well, Leon Burtnett. He at one point was the head coach at Purdue, while Coach Spack was there too. So just kind of the guys that you're familiar with in the business and that have worked them, and there's obviously a high level of respect. That's a huge part of my process in trying to figure out where you want to do this job, because that's a huge part, because where you work and what the logo is one thing, but the people you're working with is the most important thing. So coming out and working for him and a guy that lets us do our thing and trust us to do our job, that just empowers us to try to do the best job we can.
That's awesome. So it makes it, as you know, like even if you have a crappy job, but you're having to deal with guys that you respect and like, it makes all the difference. I had a summer job where I'm mowing yards in the heat with this team of mowers. Man, it sucked, but we had a good time doing it. So, so they bring you in, and they're going to ask you, here's where our program is at. How can you make it better? It's got to be probably one of the interview questions. Or what are you going to do differently? Or you looked at our program. Where are you going to make an impact? How do you do that assessment with a team? And then how do you what are you looking for first? I want to establish this thing first, or these two things have to be the priorities. What's that like for that process for you when you come into a new program?
Well, the first thing that I did was figure out basically everybody that touches the program and sit down and talk with them. So whether that's previous assistants here, or our nutritionist, athletic training, position coaches, whoever is involved, I need to create a snapshot for myself of some sort, because there's going to be a lot of learning on the fly, but I got to figure out who I'm working with, what things have been like, what kind of the what the consensus of about what they were doing in here, and just kind of get myself a better perspective on what's going on, because I knew our old D-line coach had kind of just given me a brief overview of kind of what to expect coming in, but just talking to the people that are around it, so I can start to figure out where to go, because I don't really think you can just come in and just be like, all right, hey, here's the blueprint. This is what I'm going to do. You got to figure out who you're working with, what the situation is, and where the guys are at. What can they do? What's it been run like, and what's the reasonable expectations for me to some areas that we need to start making some progress right away, and assess those and keep things simple and just keep showing up, because at the end of the day, no matter who you are in this, I mean, you got to keep showing up, and you got to stay consistent with what you're doing, and be the same guy every day, and just be somebody that they understand is here to help them get better, and really nothing else. So yeah, I mean, you just talk to everybody, any piece of information that you can get before you start really drafting up your master plan, I think.
The real challenge is that that industry has always had a lot of turnover, and now you add in the portal, so now there's even more. What you're bringing in new classes every year, and sometimes those classes are bigger because of the portal. There's also the change in the staff, so now you're hit with the same task, the same objective: make this group better physically and mentally, and we're changing all the pieces again, right? So, man, having some continuity in the coaching staff's got to help, obviously.
Yep.
But how do you handle, like, every year? You got to be like, all right, starting over again. Which kids can actually move correctly?
Mhm.
Which kids are fast? Which kids don't know how to squat? I've seen some pretty different power clean catches in my day, right? You got to do a lot of things there. So, man, every year you're like, start over, right? That's got to be tough. But also that's where all the fun is. You
Yeah.
miss, because you're the strength coach, but you miss coaching defense?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. I think there's give and take on both sides. I know I can still step in there and coach them if I need to, but I might be a little rusty on my X's and O's right now.
Yeah. When you're looking for extra help, like you have other trainers or other coaches that help you out with the team, but then you bring on your GAs. What are you looking for when you decide, hey, I think Lucas is my guy. I think I want to bring him on the staff. You got to be like, hey, so what are you looking for? And then what did you see in Lucas that said, you know what, let's bring him on?
Well, first and foremost, just good people. I want to find people that are in this for the right reasons, that are authentic. Not people I'm going to have to play a whole bunch of games in terms of how we communicate, and people that just understand it's a lot of work and it's a lot of hours, and it's you got to pay your dues. I mean, you're going to have to pay your dues. No one's going to get a fast track to the top. And if you're getting in this thing to be a millionaire, you might want to switch out, because that's probably not going to happen. So, but just people with a genuine caring for other people, and with just good solid foundational work ethic. People are going to show up on time. People are going to be dependable, and we can take anybody that has that initial skill set, and we can develop the X's and O's portion of it, and we can teach and help get that person on their path. But if you don't have that first, I don't think there's. I mean, we spend a lot of time with our assistants too, so it's got to be somebody I can tolerate too.
Sure. Lucas, any you don't work for him anymore, so you can speak freely. So, any interesting stories about working with Matt?
It's not like there's nothing really crazy. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
And nothing crazy, no crazy stories really. It was just we showed up to work, and that's what we kind of did. I thought was interesting was, and we've talked about this before, is our staff whenever I was there was 2 interns, and this speaks a lot about what Matt just said, was you can really develop anybody if they really care and they want to do it. And it was me, and then the 2 other interns are both girls. Had no strength and conditioning experience other than their training with their teams, correct?
Yep.
Am I correct when I say that, Matt?
Yeah, they were both
and then
former athletes.
Tessa was the GA, and she was fantastic. And it's funny because every other staff that I've ever been a part of or worked with was these big monster meathead strength coaches that either bald, have beards, and you're very typical football strength coaches, and we're out there, and it's me, Matt, Tessa. Do you remember the other 2?
Yeah, it was Izzy. She was a former gymnastics athlete, and then our other intern, she was on the track team.
Yeah, and so completely different staff, demographic, and group of people, and it was the best summer. I thought it was one of the most productive and executed summers I've ever been a part of, and it was just we were just doing our job, figuring it out, and having fun. It was but yeah, it was straight to the point, really. So
Well, that's high praise. You came from two prior Big Ten stops on your journey at Purdue and Maryland. So then you go to Illinois State, and you're saying it's one of the most productive times in your life. That's huge, man. So, man, awesome. One of the things you wrote here, so I know Lucas can attest to this, but when you're living that GA lifestyle or assistant lifestyle, you wrote, living in houses with random people after taking jobs.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean, Matt?
Well, that means you don't make very much money. You're moving across the country. You're trying to find a place to live, and which you might get a hotel or something for a week or two, but that's going to run out. So, uh, saving money's good. So my first house when we lived in Colorado, me and our old D line coach Brian Hendricks, we lived in this dude's house. He had like a little kid. He was around our age ish, but real different guy. Real different guy. He's big gamer, and I don't, yeah, no, he's all right. He was all right, but just the fact that you're living in some random person's house, you just kind of got a room for rent, and you're, hey man, how's it going? And I don't know. And then like when I took the job at Montana, uh, I actually lived with he was the director there, and had a roommate that was moving out. And so I didn't know him at all, but I lived in this house for 6 months till I got to know him. But it's just like part of it. You're not making enough to live somewhere real nice by yourself if you're trying to have any money on top of that. So, but just being like, hey, that might be part of the deal if you're trying to get in this journey and get in this business. Like that might be part of what you have to do to eventually. I mean, I just got a house 2 years ago. It's the first one, so that's been cool.
That, there's the perception that everyone dealing with football is loaded with cash, and definitely not always the case. And there's so many people involved that there's only so much money to go around, and you have to weed out those that aren't determined enough to stick with it. So you have to be able to demonstrate that, and it's obvious when you live through that GA lifestyle that it's not all roses. It's not all roses. One of the things you put on here was this that you wanted to discuss was like the state and the future for your profession. So the strength and conditioning world, whether it's high school or college or pro. What are your thoughts on that?
There's just so much. There's just so much we don't know. That's the part that I guess I always come back to. I mean, there's a lot of things that we know to be pretty true. If you pick up a weight and you hit a bunch of reps with it and you keep doing that and keep going up a weight, you're probably going to get stronger. And there's a lot of just basic principles and things I think that we all have a pretty good understanding of. But I think there's just so much. There's just still so much more out there, and so I really think just in this profession, just having a very open mind with a lot of the things that you come across, because I think that there's good information that's out there. I mean, there's plenty of science and studies and things like that. Probably not enough, but I think sometimes we get into, especially as like strength coaches, everybody gets into these arguments of who's right and who's wrong, and what are we doing just because this is tradition, or what are we doing because this is what so and so at this place did, and just kind of this people just not thinking critically enough about really using any type of method or any type of tool that gets the job accomplished that you're trying to get accomplished. And so I wish we'd all just quit arguing about not back squatting and single leg squatting, and because we all know it's all about context. It's all about context what we do. But I don't know. I just wish people would keep searching, because we're far from who knows what training is going to look like in 50 years from now. I mean, it might not look anything like what we're doing now. I think this training is still young, and there's still a lot more information that needs to be learned and discussed, as opposed to just butting heads over every little minuscule detail. There's a million ways to do this stuff, and that's why you'll go to any program. There's going to be different nuances and different things that people are doing, but yeah, just that's the part of me. I don't have a tribe in this. I raised myself in strength conditioning. I just tried to get all the best information that I could from all the people out there that are putting out good information, get my hands on all the books, and then just take that, take that for the context of what it's worth. But you have to ultimately take all that info and put it in the context of where you work and what constraints you have and how much time and how many people you have, and not get so far into the science side of things that we forget that ultimately you just got to be a motivator, and you got to get people to come in and do things they don't want to do and try to make it something that they come to enjoy and see how it benefits them. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all over the place, but just
you could talk about ways to make people more powerful, and you say, well, jumps are the best way to do that. And then someone will say, well, building your back squat or single leg squat's the best way to do that. And then someone else is going to say, it's got to be power cleans and power snatch. And I'll be like, well, all those things work. And then also none of them work if you don't apply them very well or very consistently. And, when we look at programming at my gym or different options, I tell people that I can come up with a really good one, or someone else can, or, Matt Nicholson could, or Lucas Lorian could. And it's only about 50% useful. The other 50% is how the coach and the athlete goes about, applying it. So if you have a set 4x10 on an accessory, and that 10th rep wasn't very hard, and you said that's I'm done, well, that didn't really cause enough stimulus to cause adaptation. So you have your template in your program, but it's how rigorously and how relentlessly are the coach and the athlete applying it. So whether you're all about jumps or are you all about squats or all about power cleans, whichever the method you chose, just be all in and do that consistently. You're going to have some results. If you're haphazard or lackadaisical in any one of those three, even if it's a perfect program, it won't matter. You get what you put into it, not just what's written there. And that's whether you're some old school guy or some new school guy, that's still going to be the main limiting factor, how relentlessly you apply your work ethic, don't you think?
Yeah, and I mean it's knowing your program, knowing what you're trying to get done, and explaining that to the people you train. And we got, I've got large groups in here, so to say I'm going to stand over every single guy, every single rep, that's not possible. But if a guy really understands what he's supposed to be doing, that's been explained and that's been demonstrated, and you have a connection with that person that you're training, or you can get them, you can nudge them in the way of their, they're getting the job done in the way that you need them to get it done. But said, everybody's going to be different. There's going to be guys who have to slow down a little bit. There's going to be some guys you need to kick up and speed up. So it's just managing. It's more just managing all those different personalities you have in the room, and you're not going to know what those are until you get to know them. And then that allows you to be a really high level coach when you really know the people in the room that you're coaching, and the plan is clear and it's concise and it's explained, and they're bought into what you're doing for them. But there's still going to be plenty of guys that need a nudge.
Right. Then you're limited on the resources. If you're a smaller program, I've seen different programs, they only have 6 squat racks and they got 40 guys in there for a session, or you have all the equipment in the world. But some people still come in, they're not going to, even, there's freshmen that come into a program, they still might not have any real background in high school. So there's still that learning curve. So let me ask you this in something specific. Do you take, 3-4 people to a squat rack or whatever, and one person on that group needs to be more of a veteran, almost like a mini team captain, and kind of like be a mini coach for that group? Because like you said, you can't be coaching everybody on every single rep. You need to have some kind of part-time leaders in the weight room as well. Is that a component at all, or no?
I think it does. I mean, initially we get, for example, like we get freshmen in here, they're going to be on their own program for that first semester, which is just basically just getting all the building blocks and things. So we spend more time with the freshmen that first semester, doing a lot more teaching, a lot more rudimentary work, and really just setting a good foundation. So I know when they come back here and I get them back in a couple of weeks, they've had experience doing everything that's going to be, or done derivatives of everything that's going to be in the program. In terms of the rack assignments, I've done rack assignments in the past. At times it can be more headache than it's worth because I deal with class schedules a lot too. So in the season, guys, I got a test, I got to lift this time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that stuff that you can end up just taking a lot of time that maybe doesn't have the payout that you would think it does. But but we certainly want to have, we want to have a veteran presence in every one of our groups, and so that's something when we're putting together groups going into an off season, we want to say, hey, we don't just put all the dudes in one group. Let's split those guys around so we've got a good collection of them in each group, because anytime you have that, it always drives up the rest of the group, and then we just have to get around. I mean, we got not enormous groups. We try to keep them pretty manageable. So if there's 3 of us, we got 25 people. I mean, I should be able to get around the room and be able to coach and talk to everybody in that room during that session.
I had one other specific question about training written down here. Human nature has at times a herd mentality where it's safer to just go with the flow or what's popular, so that if things don't go well, you can say, hey, well, everyone's doing this, right? And it seems like, from what little I know, at the college level, there's so much talk about velocity-based training, so everything's speed all the time. Not so much about the components of absolute strength, but it's always velocity-based. And that's nothing new. The Russians talked about that. Westside Barbells talked about that, hitting your target speed times on your bench, your cleans, and your squat and everything else. But how hard is it to say, hey, you know what? The world's going this way. I think this, though. And because you're worried about what other people think sometimes, or some people do, or maybe you might not give a shit at all, which is totally cool, right? But at least in most people's minds, they're thinking, well, everyone's doing it like this. I got to speak up and say we should probably do it this way instead. And here's why. You find that to be a challenge in the strength and conditioning world, because there's a lot of ego involved. There's a lot of tradition involved. There's a lot of like, hey, this is how I did it, and I got hazed this way, so too bad for you. I'm hazing you this way, right? What's that like?
Yeah, it turns into an arms race a bit. I think with technology, we know there's a lot of good in some of the things that are available now. We just got all of our velocity based training stuff updated, so we got new equipment that we have on all the racks and everything like that. I've also been not using it for the last 2 years, and so we just weren't training before then because we didn't have numbers. It's a good tool, and if it's applied, if I'm doing speed bench or something like that, or I'm doing a dynamic effort press, it's a really good tool for me, because I can,
right,
as opposed to having to guess exactly how much weight, I can just say, all right, hey, keep it between this guideline here. And the guys compete, and it's good, and it's great. But I don't use it with everything. I don't think it's necessary to use
sure,
with everything you're doing in there. So then I got all this data, and then we get done, and then I'm like, all right, what are we looking at with all this? And then there's guys that just be differences too. I mean, I'll have very explosive guys that I'm saying, hey, be in this guideline, and he's hitting 80%, for a speed that's supposed to be 60%. And then I got another guy who's at 60%, and he's hitting it like it's 40%. So there are differences in the everybody that you train. So you're gonna have some guys that are a little bit. So to say it's just, oh yeah, this is all matter of fact, and this has all been figured out, and these are the guidelines, you do this, and it's all gonna be perfect. I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah, it's just it's a tool. It's how you apply it. But there's other tools in the belt. And the whole point of being with you is not to be the best person in the weight room. It's the person that can apply their skill in their endeavor, right? So Your goal is to get them to do some things in the weight room that has correlation to how they perform in the basketball court, or in your case, the football field, or rugby, or swimming, or whatever. So the point is for them to apply their skill and make plays.
Yeah.
You oftentimes see kids that they're not even that great in the weight room, and they're still out there making plays.
I've seen.
And you're like, well, how does he do that?
I've seen plenty of them. It's almost like it doesn't 100% correlate, which I know would break a lot of hearts of strength coaches. But I've had plenty of guys that are just okay in the weight room. They're they self-manage, I guess you could say. Don't really strain through like some of the other guys, and they're fantastic football players. And then there's some guys that are just killers in here, and then they don't know what the hell they're doing on the field. So I said, you need to spend less time doing curls and more time trying to figure out how to run cover 4. And
right.
that's it's all just, it all goes together, and it's easy, especially like in college. Like, oh, this guy, he's not strong enough. I'm like, well, his numbers, I've seen dudes that are far better players that were weaker than this guy. He's not translating onto the field. He doesn't have good enough technique with his play on the field to let any of that strength show. So there's so much that goes into a guy being successful in the field, but it's not all just the weight room. It's part of it.
No.
If you're a 240-pound lineman, freshman, then yeah, you need to get your ass in the weight room because you're not big enough to go push people around yet. You're not strong enough to do it. So yes, you need to change, but there's other guys that come in that, they're not far off what they need to be from a size standpoint. And so, he said, he might be a fantastic football player. We can clean things up and hopefully get that. Because, the best players that I've ever seen had both. They weren't just, I'm good in the weight room or I'm just good. No, they had both. And those were the most high level guys that had both. And so if you really want to be that good, then you're going to have to be good on both of those. But you can be okay having one or the other, I guess. But you're just going to be okay. You're not going to be a real high level guy.
Yep. Just real quick, like Lucas, how tall are you?
5'7".
5'7". And you're a running back. And don't you still have records at your school as a running back as a 5'7" small guy, right?
I have like 12 records in my high school.
So, and then you played college football at 5'7", right? So the numbers don't always just tell the story, right? So the rule of thumb I say is numbers don't lie, but they don't tell you everything either, right? If you you got a 100-pound bench, you can't press. You're weak, right? But they don't tell you everything, right? But a 100-pound bench, you're not very good. You can't press, right?
That's part of why I got into strength and conditioning, is because I was not talented whatsoever. 5'7", 185 pounds. I wasn't good until I started really, really working out in the weight room and really working on my speed work and making all that stuff. Just that stuff is what made me the athlete I was. And it was just hard work. The talent came after the hard work, and that's just the matter of fact for someone like me. And I think that's what I would say that's probably likely for a lot of strength coaches out there, is that they just love the weight room. They love working hard. They loved what it did for them. That's probably why they're strength coaches,
Yeah.
think.
It's like there's guys that have great talent, great size, and they maybe don't work as hard as because they're still ahead of the pack. And then you have undersized guy who's not that good, who has to absolutely work his ass off and just get every drop of that they can possibly squeeze out of there. And then, but when you have a guy that has the talent and has the work, there you go. He's pretty good. But so you just kind of get big balances of that. Some guys that just have, they're talented players, but they need to see the whole picture and see how all those things can really benefit them in the long run. If they're trying to play professional football or whatever the case may be. But yeah, the guys that have it all, those are your best players.
I think the hard work, the work ethic part of it is some of the most. That's got to be the most beneficial thing of it, is being able to put in the work, do the things that you may not like to do, but you do it the best you can. And, there's just a lot of lessons out of that. There's just so many more. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of, you know, guys like that can suffer through more. They can endure more. There's just a component of that that's so much more important than just running off of talent. You just gain so much more than just you worked hard. You developed as a person. You endured. You powered through hard times, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Well, you probably figured out when I sent out this questionnaire how Lucas and I look at building athletes. Because I asked you 3 questions about the athlete's head. There's the mindset, and then their knowledge of how to play their sport, get better as an athlete, and then how do they deal with people and their teammates. And then physically, there's the 3 things that impact that. There's your training on and off the field. There's what goes in your mouth, how you eat, and then there's how do you recover, right? So in any of those 6 areas, you got to at least hit the minimum standards or you're not going to be able to play. So the example, you can only bench 100 pounds. Well, you don't check the minimum box. You're not really in the discussion. But to your guys' point, in all 6 of those components, you need to have some kind of competitive advantage. So maybe you're not the strongest or fastest in the weight room, but you make all the plays on the field because you know the playbook so well. You need some kind of competitive advantage so you can apply your skill better than someone else at that position. That's how you get on the field. That's how you kind of win. At the same time, in all 6 of those components, there's going to be something that's holding you back more than others. That's your weak link. So maybe you can make all the plays. You're not the strongest in the weight room, but you can make all the plays. But the weak link is that you're boozing on Friday night with your buddies. So you don't have your social calendar and your stuff off the field squared away. That impacts you on the field, right? So with all the things, and the kids are 18, 22 years old. Some even have some money because of NIL deals. And you have you have the staff, and you're trying to win games so you don't get fired, and then people are leaving in the portal, and people are moving on. Doesn't that get a little overwhelming, Matt? Dealing with all those things and all those kids, and you're like, shit, man, another day. We're just trying to, win game 1 here. Oh man, but so fun. When I asked you about what are things been critical with mindset, you wrote perspective and consistency. We talked about consistency quite a bit, but how do you mean your perspective and your mindset as helping you along as a coach or an athlete?
I think as a coach, especially, is just keeping everything into perspective. Sometimes we can get just wrapped up in the day to day, or wrapped up in somebody not doing a small detail, and you're going to let that ruin your day, as opposed to just being able to keep what you do and how you operate on a daily basis. Keep things in perspective. Keep your life in perspective. This isn't a matter of life or death. I know people get fired and stuff, but they don't kill you. So you can always come back and do it again. So, but just keeping things in perspective, because football is important, and in sports in general. I mean, it's important. People put in a lot of time, a lot of work to go be good at these sports and perform at a high level. But just keeping things in the appropriate perspective as to what they are, to help you not lose your mind with stuff, and just keep it down. I mean, like I said, everything's changing. The whole landscape of what we do, it's different now, but you just need to gain a new perspective on it and figure out how you're going to make that work. Because it's losing guys, or having a guy that you've been coaching hard for 3-4 years and he takes off to go in the portal or somewhere else. Like, it stinks, but it's life. Move on. They're moving on. They're going to go do something else. Well, we're going to keep getting back to business here. And got some, picked up some really good young men and good players in the portal too. So it giveth and taketh, but it's just less of a, just keeping yourself in the moment day to day, because things change, people go, and they come and go more so than they ever have. But just stay holding it down. We're going to be right here doing the same stuff and getting our job done.
Yeah, that piece is a big challenge for me. I could be a lot better there. They say don't get too high in the highs or too low in the lows, and I usually ride that wave all the way up and all the way down. I was on the phone with Lucas today, with with challenges and stuff, and you can get frustrated and get pretty upset, and then be like, in the same moment, hey, we're still just, all these other things are going well. So that message really hits home, because I could absolutely be better there. How about you said reliability and adaptability with working with people? Adaptability's got to be huge, because you got people from all over the country, all different football IQs, general IQs, homesick, not homesick, no home at all, right? And then you're bringing in people with different religious views, right? Different work ethic views. What are some things that you've learned along the way that's been helpful in relating and impacting young athletes?
First and foremost, just being yourself, not trying to put on a facade of because that's not just not gonna work. So just being true to yourself, and you're gonna have to, you're gonna have so many different types of personalities, so many different people coming from a lot of different areas, and that just challenges you to keep, one, trying to build bonds wherever you can. I mean, you're always gonna you might have some stronger bonds with some guys than other guys. That's just kind of tends to be the case at times, but I think you just, if you just shoot people straight and just check in with people and talk with them, try to get to know them, get to know their background as much as you possibly can. But ultimately, just, you're trying to make the place that when they come see you and they come to our environment and they come in here to train, that it's a place where they don't really have to think about a whole lot. They come in, everything's very clear in terms of what we're trying to accomplish today, what's being asked of you, the way that we want it done. And beyond that, when we were getting in there, then it's just having some fun, making it a good competitive environment, but making it a place where they know what they're going to come in, and they know what they're going to get every day from the coaches and from from our whole staff. And then that just helps them. I mean, if you're consistent as a coach in that type of delivery every day, then it's just gonna trickle downhill. But as soon as you start being up and down, or being erratic, or one day you're a total dickhead, and for some other reason, because something going on in your life, like, that just doesn't, you gotta just check it at the door. I mean, we sit in this office and I'd say, oh fuck, here we go, it's gonna be a long day. But you go out that door and you put it on, man. You put it on, you go deliver, and you go do what needs to be done, for this stuff to all get accomplished at a high level, because nobody's going to do it for you. And if you go out there just, all right, guys, I mean, you got no enthusiasm, you got no energy, what the hell do you think they're going to do? So they're not going to respond to that. So that's the hard part, because sometimes, like I said, you don't feel like it, but we don't have that luxury. Some of these guys, they might come in and feel sorry for themselves one day, and I got to, all right, try to get them going, but there ain't nobody to get us going. It's our job. So you got to do it.
Who's one of those guys or moments where you come home to your wife, you're like, you will not believe how funny this kid was today. You will not believe what he did. What's one of those that strikes out in your mind?
I've had some pretty funny guys. In terms of one that comes to the top of my head, not one at the top of my head, but I will say a pretty funny one was a couple of years ago. It was like Halloween on a Sunday, and I got a Guy Fieri costume, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna wear this. We were playing Western Illinois the day before, and I was like, oh, surely we're gonna win this game, and we didn't. Fucking lost. So, but I bought the costume,
Mm-hmm.
so I wore it. I still wore it, and I told him I'm supposed to have fun. I'm supposed to have fun wearing this Guy Fieri outfit, but I'm still gonna wear it because it was like $40. So, but yeah, that just is too bad, because it would have been really, you just expect it to be that's why you never know. That's why they play these games, right? You never know. That's the beauty. So you talk about the highs and the highs. It's like you win a big game, and you feel like you walk in Sunday, I'm a damn good coach, and then that happens. You lose one you're not supposed to lose, and you feel like the biggest piece of shit. It's the highs and the lows, man. During the season, it's crazy. because you invest so much, and so it's not like just it's a long road to get to those outcomes, and so you feel them. It's hard to explain unless you're in it.
That working underneath Brock's back, he's a pretty intense guy, would you say?
Yeah, he's a total football guy. I mean, he's a tough guy. He's gonna speak direct. He's gonna say what he thinks. He's gonna challenge guys, and if we don't, if we underperform in a certain area, he's gonna challenge those guys the whole week. And he's just, he's seen it all. I mean, the guy's been around the game. He's just a tough, hard-nosed football guy, and I love working for a guy like him because he's no bullshit. He just shows up and he does it.
So was that mustache part of the deal to be on the team? Because I know he had rocking a pretty big, thick mustache at Purdue. So is that like a requirement for the staff?
No, but I shaved it. I took all the everything else off after he got his 100th win. So I dedicated my mustache to Brock's 100th win, and I've just been doing. Yeah,
there you go.
It's been hanging around ever since, and maybe a seasonal thing for me. But respect the stash.
Right. What's the wife say?
Yeah, I think she's used to it. She likes it. I think she likes it. Yeah, used to it or likes it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
She's used to it. Doesn't tell me she likes it so much. Oh, man. Those last two components on nutrition and recovery, those aren't the very sexy components at all, but you can't outwork a bad diet. And if you're not fueled properly day in and day out or hydrated, you're going to suck. And then when you talk about recovery and sleep, well, who really wants to go to bed when you're in college? I know I didn't. I didn't even play sports, so I'm up until 2:00 in the morning doing all sorts of dumb shit. But those two things alone, man, they could make or break a game or a season, or even more. If you're constantly tired, you're slower than you think you are, you're out of position, then you increase injury risk, right? So how do you try to meet those kids where they're at and saying, hey, man, I know you don't want to do this, but you got to eat this much protein, take your creatine, and damn it, you need 9 hours of sleep. Get off your damn phone, right? So how do you move the needle there?
That's a damn good question.
Right? You and I'd probably be millionaires. We had that one answered.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I'd have 10 million for sure. But that's one of those things. It's a tough thing to navigate because you just can't babysit these guys. You have them in here for a couple hours, and you can't babysit them the rest of the time. So it's preaching a message of having these guys put more time and effort into that. I mean, ultimately, it's like if I'm coaching a guy for his career, throughout college, I want to be helping that guy build a toolbox. And when I say a toolbox, is that I'm trying to give you all, like, you got to come in here, you got to train hard, you got to do all that stuff. But everything outside of here, in terms of sleep and recovery, nutrition, it's really just building habits in all those areas, and then slowly starting to refine those habits. Sure. Hey, start taking a day out of the week and prepping. Starting to prep your meals. Like here's some things you can cook. It's really easy. Start trying that out, and you'll see a bit more consistency with when you're stepping on the scale each day. But ultimately, a guy has to be driven, and that's going to be a maturity thing to me. If you get to some guys will be real immature as 18, maybe 19-year-olds, and those other things start to come. He might come in and still train hard and do all that, but when he can get all the other little things on top of that, that's when you start really becoming a complete player. So if like a pro scout comes in and he's asking, hey, what about this guy? I'm like, he trains his ass off. He's prepping his meals. He's taking care of all of his things, nutrition. He's consistent on the scale. He's not going up and down, making excuses because he's handling his business. And on his off days, he's coming in here and he's doing some, extra body tempering or hip mobility work or whatever the case is. When you start to see the whole picture and what it really takes to be a high level, durable athlete, then those things got to start being part of the package. Not many guys can just throw all that stuff to the side and still think that they're going to get where they want to go, especially at our level. Because like most of the guys who get here as freshmen, it's like, dude, you're not ready for the league. It's going to take you 4 or 5 years of development to get to that point. And you want to start doing that now. Don't waste time. Don't try to, I'm going to start carrying my last year and turn it on and go try to do it. It's like you're leaving cards on the table. Don't leave any regrets out there. And you don't want to be playing your last game and being like, I should have, so you try to just build this understanding that, like, guys, that's what it takes. If you really want to get there, and some guys may not want to. They may, hey, I'm cool. I just want to play some college football and be pretty good, and then I'll go on about my life. Like, guys that are typically trying to go on and play professional, those are the guys that are going to be a little bit more dialed in when they start seeing that, hey, I can make some money doing this. And certainly it's not all of them that can do that, but you start building that toolbox, and you start really, understanding your own body and understand that, and ask, you can ask better questions to your, to your strength coaches or trainers or whoever. But, I think it's just all of us. I mean, just trying to get better habits, get better routines, and see how this stuff all plays into the whole picture. But it's hard to see that stuff, and it's not instant gratification, because all that stuff, it's like you just do it over a long period of time, and eventually you're like, oh damn, yeah, this is all doing a real good job. But everybody likes real instant gratification, so that part of it's tough.
Lucas and I, just a few weeks ago, one of our prior episodes that dropped was on habits alone. We just dissected James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. And so big fans of it. And it's just, how do you build habits, or how do you break down habits you don't want anymore? So I don't know if you've been through that book or not, but I probably have bought and given away 25, 30 copies. So it's everything. Let me ask you this, because this is a belief I have, and I like to bounce the idea off other folks. Let's assume the given in this equation is that the athlete can check, the minimum box of being able to perform. Let's say they're, a B or C when they show up as a freshman. So they're not an A-level athlete yet. They can play. You recruited them, you give them a scholarship, they can play. If the kid is, like you said, building that toolbox, and he's relentless on his mindset, and he's relentless on building the knowledge of how all the X's and O's work and how his body responds. And then he's relentless being a coachable kid, strong teammate, and then win with the support team. And then you make him build that toolbox in the weight room, nutrition, recovery. If the kid's relentless in all 6 of those areas, or some others as well, and he can obviously play, I believe, in that Rocky scenario where if you start checking everything all the time, you got a shot to be an all-conference, all-American, and then playing on Sunday. If you come in and work your ass off in all those areas, you have to have a little bit of luck. You can't have someone fall on your arm and, break it and you're out for a year. But if you just do these things over and over again all the time, you're gonna be in the discussion and say, hey, yeah, you probably could play on Sunday. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I got no argument with that. I mean, if you're coming in and you're putting in, if everybody, whether it's position coach or your strength coach or trainers, if they're all saying the same things, like, damn, this guy, like, I can't get him out of here. He's all, he's always in here. He's doing this. He's got, he's doing it in the classroom. He's doing it all. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're doing that, then yeah, certainly you're going to give yourself a really good chance. You said nothing's guaranteed. And even if you have a setback, I mean, there's guys that come back from have an injury and come back, they bounce back, and those guys will typically be the best at bouncing back because they're driven. It's important to them. So they're going to attack the rehab process hard. They're not going to feel sorry for themselves, and they'll be right back on their way. So if you can get that, I mean, but that's our job. We got to help guys realize that, because not everybody's gonna. I mean, it'd be great to just tell people that, hey, do that, and it's that easy. It's not easy. It's not easy to do.
It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy. One last piece I want to circle back to, because it's selfishly, it's important to me. At our gym, we have the it's called Unbreakable Athletics. So there's a U for as you can see, for our logo, and so we have a charity called the U Foundation, which collectively helps out with breast cancer and then also the military. But one of the other things I champion is that we take in troubled youth that have made some mistakes. Maybe they're kicked out of school. So they're definitely not playing any sports, right? They're not going to be on any team, but you can learn a lot of life lessons in the weight room, or maybe they're really disadvantaged financially. So we bring them on, and the foundation, or mostly me, I'm basically it. We pay for those kids. So I saw your time. You said you had a year back where you're doing a program with youth kids, in the same deal, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, when after I graduated, that next summer they put together like a youth impact program. They had done it at a couple different sites. So they came in. There was like an academic portion to it. There was a football portion of it, which I got to be the head coach of, and hired a bunch of our current players that we had on the roster to help be assistant coaches. And so it was really just a deal where they took. I mean, we were in Houston, so if you've ever been in that area, University of Houston, there's a lot of diversity there, and there's certainly a lot of different income levels near the school. So we took a lot of the kids that were in those inner city schools in the summertime and just gave them some structure in terms of doing stuff in the classroom, and then having a football program. We kind of finished the thing off with having some scrimmages and stuff like that. I mean, kept it real basic, but it was a really good learning experience for me. I mean, certainly not everybody has all these types of things available to them. Maybe their parents can't afford to send them off to all these fancy camps and things like that. But just to have another opportunity to bring those kids in and provide them structure and provide them, not only academics, but also, on the football side of things, and, teaching discipline with them. And it was just a really overall good experience. We had a lot of fun with it, and, we were out there drawing plays up in the dirt, but they had fun, and it was really enjoyable. It was stressful at times, and there was certainly a lot of things we had to figure out and kind of take control of, but it was a really good experience for me, especially just getting done with college and just having being able to have that type of perspective.
With me, and similar to what you're just saying, a lot of people say, well, it's so generous you're doing that, but honestly, you can see it on a smile on your face when you're talking about it. Selfishly, there's plenty of reward there, because you see that you do something and that other kid is impacted by that. So it's just a lot of fun seeing those results. That's awesome. I had some other questions. Lucas, you got anything else for Matt Nicholson here?
I mean, I think we honestly covered a lot of it, a lot of the stuff I was going to ask anyways. Yeah, I mean,
we're good.
For me, yeah, one of the questions I was going to ask was talk about, your relationship with Brock's back and stuff like that. So
yeah,
kind of covered it, a little. So
the like you said, the radio stations change as we get older, right? So when you're running the radio, what do you listen to when you're training? And then who determines the music when the whole team's in there? How's that work?
The whole team's in here. I usually just delegate to my grad assistant. She's usually got a pretty good pulse on that. Unless it's just something that's on there that's just killing me, and I'm like, all right, put something else on. Some of the stuff, I don't know, some of the newer rap is just like so slow and dreary. I just don't know how you can train to it, but they like it. But I don't like it. I don't really like it. Yeah, sorry, little baby.
What's old outlaw country that you like?
I'll put on like
old. You listed that there.
Yeah, I'll put that on because it's never on in here. So if I'm like working out and I got the room to myself, I'll put on some like old outlaw Texas country type of stuff.
That means you gotta be all George Strait then, right? Because you're from Texas.
Yeah, I like little George Strait, little George Jones, little Jerry Jeff Walker. I mean, I like yeah, I like all that old stuff.
Bucket list adventure place you'd want to go with your wife. You haven't been there yet, though.
I don't know. We're talking about planning I got to plan a trip with her this year. That's on the plan. But we went to Italy.
Okay.
We went to Italy and before we got married, which was awesome. I would definitely go back. And then we went up to Banff National Park up in Canada. That was pretty awesome too. So
that's on my list for sure.
Highly recommend. So I don't know. We'll probably somewhere over in Europe next. somewhere.
Selfishly again, like being out in Montana and Colorado, one or two spots or parks that you just said, man, this place was sweet. Because I've been to Colorado a few times, never Montana, but so what would be your favorites out there?
Glacier National Park and Flathead Lake up in western Montana. You can't really go wrong. They're not too far from each other either. So if you're going to plan a trip, I would say make room for both of those.
Right there.
Also, like Grand Teton National Park, that's really, really nice too.
If you hit that one, you probably go by Yellowstone.
Yeah, you'll be right down near Yellowstone. I've been like right by Yellowstone. I actually haven't gone into the park, but that whole area. I mean, if you haven't been out that way, please do. It's awesome, and go like late summer, like, July, August. That's a real good time to go.
Awesome. Favorite sports movie?
Probably D2's Mighty Ducks.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Quack.
Gordon Bombay.
Awesome. Favorite athlete? I like that. Nick Chubb with those Cleveland Browns. Any favorite historical Browns that you liked? Because I grew up, so I'm 49, so I grew up in the Bernie Kosar era, so all those guys. That was my thing back in the old stadium, and then when the dog pound started. So, in fact, I went to a game just a couple weeks ago when I turned on my birthday. My son took me to a game out there, so I haven't been in the stadium in years.
I went to a game 2 years ago. We went out to Cleveland for a game. It was because my old
beautiful.
It was actually my strength coach in college. He's the strength coach there, and then one of our assistants there. He's also there, and then Case Keenum, who I played with at Houston. He was playing there at the time, so it was pretty cool because we got to see all those guys.
Case just played against the Browns last week.
Joe Flacco, he's back.
Yep. Joe
Flacco,
right?
What is up with?
Wasn't even in the
Browns
league this year,
fans?
I mean,
right?
10 games, 10 wins. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I'd never been more sick watching a game when Chubb got hurt, but they've been rallying.
Oh yeah,
they've been rallying.
Yep.
Joe Flacco.
Favorite book?
Favorite book? Well, I'll give myself a pat on the back. I read Crime and Punishment this year. Really, really long
No
book.
kidding.
Really
Classic.
long book, but I do like to read some of the older classic type books too, before I go to bed or something like that. And I don't know. I like that stuff. Strength conditioning books are good, but strength conditioning books are good, but sometimes I like other stuff too.
Favorite superhero?
I'll go with Batman.
A lot of people say Batman.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. A lot of people like
say
Batman.
I just really like the movies. I really like the movies a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How about villain?
I'll probably have to go with Ursula from Little Mermaid. It's my daughter's favorite movie right now. So
That's a big
fat like octopus thing. Yeah.
She's got octopus, all
big,
tentacles.
thick
Yeah,
Ursula.
right. That's right. Deep tackle. Favorite lift? Dumbbell, a double kettlebell clean squat press. Dang, that's a lot of work, man.
That's
That's your favorite lift?
It's most bang for the buck, and most of the time, I've really changed how I train now. I'm not holding myself to get these big 1.5, 2 hour sessions in there. Now I'm really just more on like a 30 to 45 minutes about every day. But it just fits. It's fit a lot better. I started doing that probably since I had more kids and stuff, but it's been a better model. So I can just make sure I'd pretty much just try to do something every single day.
So Matt Nicholson's athletic role right now, he's a coach and a dad and wants longevity, and he's spending his time in the weight room to apply his skill on the field. So you want something that you wrote here, something that's full body, 2 different implements, so you can be a better athlete as a dad and a coach, right? And then you wrote down interval training. That's for your conditioning as your favorite way to train. So it just makes more sense to apply it that way. That's
Yep.
excellent. If you had $10 million, what job would you do?
I always joke about starting a taco truck because I just feel like everywhere that I've lived, compared to like Texas, like there's always good breakfast tacos somewhere. So I make real good breakfast tacos, so I could probably find a nice niche, make a little bit of extra just to do something. I wouldn't mind doing some broadcasting.
Okay. Keep that mustache. Right?
Yeah.
For the
right.
brand. Man, there's no real taco breakfast, Mexican breakfast place here on the west side of Indianapolis at all. That could be your calling.
It could be something.
But then you're too far away from the Browns game, so you probably want to move to Cleveland.
Well, people are always going to need breakfast tacos, especially before a football game.
That's right. Yeah, right. Good.
Maybe even after.
Right.
You name it.
Or those late nights when you're out too late. Right.
That's right.
After a Browns game.
Yeah.
After a Browns game, usually upset.
Not this year.
The shirt I wore last year, the shirt I wore almost every game was "We almost always almost win," and that's a Cleveland Browns shirt from a company out there, GV Art, which is huge out there. But it's one of their most popular shirts. We almost always almost win. Matt Nicholson, everybody, thanks so much, Matt. I had a great time today. Haven't met you before in my life, and I had no idea what to expect, but came highly recommended from Lucas, which is really all I need for me. So really enjoyed the time, great insights, had a lot of fun. So thanks so much. Good luck on the upcoming season. Maybe we come out to watch Illinois State play. That'd be a lot of fun too. So, man, and then your wife and your kids, man, best of luck.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Talking to you, man.